Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, and we're going to talk specifically about understanding the 2020 political landscape that Andrew Yang is traversing through Formula One race car driving, because there are a lot of similarities and doing intellectual refraction between these two world elements. And between these three, Andrew Yang, the 2020 U.S. political landscape, and 2020 Formula One race car driving. And when I say 2020, I just mean current, now, right? We can learn more about 2020 U.S. politics, and more specifically about Andrew Yang and what he needs to do to get to the finish line, to pave that road to the White House. All right, so let's talk about. So right now, of course, Andrew Yang is in the fight for his life to get one more debate closer to winning the 2020 U.S. presidential primary race, right? And in order to do that, he has to race, right? And so this is one of the reasons why recently I learned a lot about Formula One race car driving. So I recently learned, within the last 2 months, I learned a whole lot about Formula One race car driving, and I used it to inform what I understand about politics, right? Politics is truly a race, right? Politics is a competition, right? And when you look at competition models and you learn about them, you can learn a lot about what needs to happen in order to defeat opponents in a political arena, right? And I think there's a ton of incredibly solid lessons within Formula One race car driving. So let's start breaking it down. All right, so how did I learn a lot about Formula One race car driving recently? Well, the reason why I decided to do it was I'm very interested in competition sets. So I play chess. I try to use that to understand politics. You'll find videos right here on this channel talking about understanding politics through chess, right? And the reason why I went down this road with Formula One race car driving is YouTube, right? So YouTube has this new special thing. YouTube is truly an amazing, incredible, wonderful new vector for information, right? And so what I did recently was I watched the entire 2019 season for Formula One race car driving, okay? Now, how did I do that? Well, there is a playlist right here on YouTube. You can watch it for nothing, for absolutely free. And it is race highlights from every single Formula One 2019 Grand Prix held this year. And each video is 7 minutes long, 6 or 7 minutes long, encapsulating one entire Grand Prix, showing you the very best of the race, showing you all the highlights from the race from the start through the finish, right? And honestly, before I watched the entire 2019 Formula One race car driving season, I knew very little about Formula One cars, right? And the reason why is I really didn't care about them. I'm a big car guy, but not for cars I can't buy, you know what I mean? So, but I really wanted to learn, I wanted to learn this competition set and see if there was any wisdom that it would reflect on politics, and boy, were there, right? But you can watch, so I would highly encourage you to go, right after this video, go watch any one of the 2019 Formula One race car Grand Prix highlight videos, right? And if you want, you can watch the entire season. There's like 20 races. And by the time you are done watching these videos at 7 minutes apiece, you will understand an incredible amount about Formula One race car driving, which is really cool because it is its own community. It has its own equipment. It has its own language. It has its own people. It has its own processes, and it has its own tool. It's a microcosm, right? And understanding important things at the microcosm level can really help us in life. And right now, it's going to help us illuminate 2020 U.S. politics, all right? So what did I learn about Formula One race car driving? Well, a few things. One, the cars are absolutely amazing. The cars are 1,000 horsepower. 1,000 horsepower. They're light as a feather. They don't weigh much at all. They easily weigh less than 1,000 pounds. I'm pretty sure. Maybe significantly less than that. And they can go about 230 miles an hour. So I watched every single Grand Prix. One of the most amazing things I saw during the entire thing The crashes are super fun, of course, right? The cars explode. Like, they just shred to pieces and parts go everywhere. Like, they're so fragile, right? So these cars are 1,000 horsepower, incredibly fast, incredibly powerful, incredibly agile, incredibly fragile, right? Incredibly fragile. They break apart on impact. Even a touch with another car can break a Formula One race car, like shattering a glass figurine, man. These things are so delicate, right? So they're incredibly impressive, but they are super fragile, right? All right, so one of the things I saw was when they have these turns in the race, there's so much. It's really incredible learning about Formula One race car. So there's a lot of stuff about safety, right? So they do a lot to keep the drivers safe by giving them really good suits and really good helmets. They do a lot to put safety into the cars. And one of the biggest areas where they're making Formula One races safer is how the tracks are designed. So one of the things that they do on the tracks is they give, like, if somebody goes around a corner, rather than putting like a hard brick wall at a corner, they'll let there be an area where, like, literally a street or an area where they can drive down this street if they can't make the turn, right? And it's much, much safer. Rather than hitting a brick wall, they just go 100 feet out of the way. And then they have to turn their car around, right? And they lose seconds, and they'll lose like 5-10 positions, right? It's catastrophic to winning the race, but your car's fine and you're fine, right? So this is a new way that they design the race courses so that the drivers are safe, right? Safer. That's a better way. It's not a safe sport, not even remotely a safe sport, but they are making it safer. So I saw this driver miss a turn, right? They couldn't get around the turn and not hit another car, so they just went down this offshoot, this like half a block offshoot. And I think this was in Paris, right? And you could see like this guy at the end of the offshoot, like literally walking his dog. This car was like off of the racetrack and like into a neighborhood, right? But the cameras followed him. It was amazing. So this guy slows his car down, right? His car's perfectly fine. He brings his car to a complete stop, and now he needs to get his car, but he's faced the wrong way. He needs to get his car turned 180 degrees. He needs to turn his car completely around and go the other direction, right? So what he does is he just pushes the car 10 feet forward, and with 10 feet of momentum, he just kicks the shifter and spins that entire race car around on a dime. Like, does a 180 with 10 feet of momentum, right? In everything I saw in Formula One race car, this 180 turn with 10 feet of forward momentum was the most impressive thing I've ever seen with a Formula One race car. It was so incredible, right? And I only saw it because I watched every race, right? I watched a 7-minute summary of every single race, right? It's truly incredible, right? These cars are amazing, and the drivers who drive them are a little less amazing, but still cool. The reason why I don't say they're cooler than the cars is I don't think any of them are American. That's another thing I learned. Americans don't give 2 shavings of best car for Formula One race car driving. Americans do not care, right? And I think it's that fragile part, right? Americans don't like the idea of things that are fragile. Americans don't like things that break on impact, right? Like NASCAR is like rubbing is racing, like it's just like our favorite sport is football, right? And like high impact, you know what I mean? Like Americans, we don't like fragile things. It's just a thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why. And so Formula One race car is a lot like soccer, right? The world loves it, but Americans just don't care, right? However, America's got this one wrong. Formula One racing is very, very cool. I'm definitely down, right? And by the way, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I will watch the race highlights for the rest of my life, and I'm going to go see if I can go see a Formula One race car race next year here in the U.S. I would love to see one of these up front in person. That'd be awesome, right? All right, so let's talk. What does this mean for Andrew Yang, and what does this mean for politics, right? Well, the biggest thing that we need to learn is the opportunity in self-inflicted wounds, right? And self-inflicted team wounds, right? So this is a huge thing in Formula One race car driving. And as soon as I saw it in Formula One race car driving, I said, oh my gosh, right? That happens exactly in American politics. All right, so let me explain something. All right, so a Formula One race only has 20 cars in it. How many candidates do we have? We have between 10 and 20 candidates, right? Like right now, it depends on how you count who's, like I think we got like 15 candidates right now, right? But at the most we had so the number of candidates in the rate in our primary race matches almost exactly the number of cars in a Formula One race car, right? But in a Formula One race car, they have a rule, and you have to race in teams, right? So when the Formula One requires teams to field 2 cars, they are not allowed to field one. There's a few circumstances, like if you have an injured driver, you can field 1 car, but you have to field 2 cars, and you cannot field 3. So that means in Formula One race car driving, there's really only about 10 teams, right? And they're teamed up in pairs, right? Now let's talk about self-inflicted wounds, right? So one of the most heartbreaking things to see in Formula One race car driving, and it is equally heartbreaking when we see it in U.S. American primary politics, and you will definitely recognize it once I explain the situation, all right? Let's talk about the 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix, all right? Let's talk about Team Ferrari, all right? Team Ferrari are the absolute max of Formula One race car. There's only one team that really competes with them, and that is Mercedes, right? Mercedes and Ferrari, absolutely, it is daggers out, just stones to the wall, like all-out battle for number 1 position and to be the best team in the world in Formula One race car. Nobody takes Formula One race car as seriously as Mercedes and Ferrari, right? They fight it out every race. They put all they can into it. They spend more money. They get the best drivers. And I'm telling you, these mechanics, they pour their blood into these cars, right? There's nothing they won't do on Team Ferrari and Team Mercedes that's legal and fair to win. Like, they are all in, right? Like, they follow the law pain rule. Nothing against the law. Don't hurt anybody. Other than that, everything goes, right? Like, and they're all in, right? And it's awesome. It's really wonderful to see their fight, right? So here's what happened, right? In 2019 Grand Prix, Brazilian Grand Prix, basically Ferrari's doing its thing, and they are absolutely dominating, right? And I'm pretty sure they were out in the lead on this, right? And if they weren't, they were about to. If Ferrari's drivers, I'm going to tell you their names right now, Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. They're 2 of the best F1 drivers, and I'm going to say F1 going forward. It means Formula One. They're two of the best F1 drivers in the world, right? If those 2 dudes are on the field, they are either near the front or they're going to be there soon, right? Like, they are pure Mac drivers. These dudes rock, right? So the 2 of them are out in front. They're leading, and there's nobody around. Like, they got open space, right? There is nobody even pressuring for them for the front, right? But guess what? Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, they don't like to lose to nobody. Nobody. They're on the same team, right? With no one around, right? Leclerc, not even on a turn, right? Leclerc tries to pass his teammate, Sebastian Vettel, right? They got 20 feet on either side, right? There's no obstacles on the course. It's just them, right? Leclerc taps Sebastian Vettel's car and wrecks them both, right? Just tears his own car to shreds. Sebastian Vettel's car fared a little bit better, but it took them both out of the standing. They lost that race in 17th and 18th place. I'm not sure they even finished. I think they were that low because other cars had crashed and weren't even in the race, right? It was catastrophic, right? And it was completely self-inflicted, right? Now, how does that relate to American politics? Happens all the time, right? So I'm gonna give you the current standings for the actual 7 American U.S. candidates that matter right now. 6 of them have qualified for December 19th debate, And then there's Andrew Yang. He always matters. You can never count him out, right? All right. So you got Andrew. So and they pair up, right? They're on teams, right? So let's lock them down, right? First and foremost, Team Ferrari in American politics is Biden-Warren, right? They're always going to be near the front. You can't count either one of them out, right? Like, not completely, right? And they absolutely are tearing each other apart, right? Like, just like Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel went at each other and broke each other apart in the 2019 Grand Prix, in the 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix. That's exactly what Warren and Biden are doing right now. They are not acting as teammates. They're not driving toward that goal together, right? There can be only one winner. They're both establishment. They're both major establishment candidates, right? They should be helping each other, but just like Leclerc and Vettel couldn't help each other, they're destroying each other, right? Who else is in there, all right? Let's talk about Team Mercedes. Team Mercedes is absolute fantastic. By the way, Team Mercedes got the best. They have the single best F1 driver in the world. His name is Lewis Hamilton. He is the Michael Jordan of F1 racing. He is an incredible driver, right? Who's Team Mercedes in American politics? Team Mercedes, right, is second-tier establishment. And that right now is Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar. Holy cows. Can you imagine that Amy Klobuchar is near the top of the pack, right? Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. Who is he paired up on his team? Bernie, I'll tell you right now, I am learning quickly. Bernie Sanders is one of the most unusual, strange, unique, catalyst politicians I've ever seen in my life, right? He really has no equal, right? He, my respect for him grows every day. I will never, ever, 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 ever vote for him under any circumstance. I will never, ever, ever vote for a socialist. No way. It's not going to happen, right? But I have incredible respect for Bernie, right? Bernie is not paired with any other candidate, right? So Team Bernie, that's Red Bull, right? That'd be like near the top. Team Bernie absolutely is near the top, right? But F1 racing says you got to have two drivers, right? So who drives with Bernie? Socialism, right? You cannot bring Bernie's name up without socialism. It is duct taped to his forehead, right? Socialist. And it's a big deal because America is the number one enemy of socialism in the world. Nobody comes close. We fight more socialism. We have fought more socialists than every other country combined, right? America is socialism's kryptonite, right? But Bernie, that guy, man, I'll tell you, like, he's running after a heart attack. I mean, who does this, right? You got to give him the respect that's due, right? So so Team Bernie, that would be Red Bull, right? It's Bernie and socialism. Where's Yang, right? Well, Yang is, his team would be Team Sports Pesa, right? Sports Pesa is a it is a electronic online betting company, and they have an F1 team, right? Now, who's Yang's driving partner, right? Well, the only person that's really like Yang, who is very, very non-establishment, right, and really new, right? Ferrari's been in F1 forever. Mercedes been in F1 forever. Red Bull's been in F1 for a long time, right? Sports Pesa is new, right? And Andrew Yang's driving partner would absolutely be Tulsi. She's just like him, right? They are new guard. Right? They are new, and there's nothing like them. They are completely non-establishment, right? And they're always a threat, just like Sports Pesa, Team Sports Pesa, right? But the reality is, I think what Andrew Yang has to learn very, very carefully, right, is don't self-inflict, right? He's got to compete, right? Leclerc and Vettel, they have to compete every week. They want position 1 and 2, right? But Andrew Yang needs to figure out who his driving partner is and not do damage to that person, right? And I really think this Formula One, understanding that you should have a driving partner, right, to go toward the end, and that, go toward the end and drive with that driving partner and don't wreck your cars, right? And then put the hammer down in those last 2 laps, right? And we're not nearly at the last 2 laps, right? So I think he should definitely be doing more to aid Tulsi, and Tulsi should be doing more to aid him. They are Team Sports Pesa from F1. I highly encourage you to go watch Formula One race car driving. You will learn a lot about American politics and how competitions are won, right? And Andrew Yang needs to learn very, very carefully to get a driving partner, right? To figure out who his team is, and do not self-inflict, right? And also, guess what? This is the beautiful part. The 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix had the exact ending that we wanted, okay? Pierre Gasly, he is a French driver who had never won a race, right? But he got his first podium victory, right? Because Vettel and Leclerc wrecked themselves, right? So let's sit back and watch as Biden and as Biden and Warren wreck themselves and allow Andrew Yang to zoom past. And I think each and every one of us, if you're praying, people, I would really be praying that Bernie comes to his senses and drops out of this race before something happens, because I think that's how he's going to end up happening. I think his body isn't going to betray him. His body is going to do what a 78-year-old body does when it's put under incredible strain, right? And that's it. If you remain in the U.S. presidential election, there's no two way. You cannot pretend for a minute that you are not putting your body and your mind through incredible strain, right? I am starting to pray that Bernie will drop out for his own safety, right? If you're not a praying person, keep your fingers crossed, right? He needs to drop out. It's not good for him, all right? That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.